What the heck is happening in the rental market, guys and girls? There are 8 million Australians that rent properties. Over 30% of our population is in rental properties, and no one's really talking about it in the news, so let's talk about it. Stay tuned.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minute, episode 417. The rental market. It is, especially for principals, it's probably the most important thing in real estate. It probably a lot more people are doing stuff in relation to rental than sales, but it almost feels like the orphan child that no one speaks to, talks about. A lot of all the data is always about the sale market, all the media is about the sale market, and no one's ever talking about what's happening in rental. There, as you said before, what was it? 8 million tenants, which means
8 million.
8 million. So it's a big number, huge number.
30% of households. You know, it's a massive number, and it's so important to our thriving economy. And you know, whenever you open up a paper, your Google account, your Google, wherever you get your news from, Facebook, Instagram, I don't know, but it seems like everyone is reporting sales, and there's a big part of the market that just wants to know what's happening in rentals.
Yeah, it is. And so everyone's sort of seen the sale market surge since really April. What's the feeling on the ground for? We'll go through sort of the perception, the sentiment since April last year, Mark, and then we can go in some of the data, especially in particular DY, where we've got some data for everybody. So what do you feel the sentiment has been?
And you know what struck me, Burge, when we spoke to Simon Polito in California a couple of weeks ago, and he said that all of America have applied a 75% tenant discount in rent, and that's still in place till today.
California.
So 75%.
Yeah. Which is a huge government incentive. That was just in California state, because everyone's still in particular lockdown there, and it's insane. It's very affordable there, but obviously there as well is pretty drastic that there was lockdowns. But when we had lockdowns, it was nothing like that, was it? 75%.
Not at all.
They didn't have to pay it back. It was, Lisa Kramer. Yes, my daughter's in New York. They got 3 months free. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to know if New York and California basically did the same lockdown a year compared to Florida, Texas. So, good morning, Lisa. They wouldn't have had the same acts there. But the rental market, you did a show with Brunker. The moratorium ended. What was it, last Friday?
It has, yeah. Pretty massive. And on numbers, we've got 1,600 land properties, 2,000-3,000 landlords. I guess you could say there's 2,000-3,000 tenants in there. And from that, we had people on payment plans, probably about 40 odd people. I think it was 36 or something like that. They're on payment plans, you know, through that first half. So I think in Australia, our rental market really performed well, especially when we look at, you know, other countries like America. I think it's a credit to our system and our government and stuff like that. We did good.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't like shit hit the fan. Yes, there would be a lot of people who it did personally, but we're talking more of a holistic scale. The market didn't shit the bed. Like if I share the screen here with some of the data in particular from DY, and keep in mind DY's got 10,000 properties, 11 or 12,000 properties, so and 10,000 units. So it's a really good subsection. You're not of an area with 50. So if you have a look here, especially this is probably a bit easier to see. Let me move that over. This is SQM research, really good, really valid.
Zoom. What was that say?
So basically, you've got, if we look for 2-bedroom apartments, your average rent is $569 per week. For the week, asking
just on that, Michael, what people have to know is what you're showing them is a really good cross-reference for all of Sydney, because DY is one of the biggest unit suburbs in Sydney. So when you're taking a cross-section like this, you can apply it to most unit areas of Sydney. So let's go.
Yes. So change previous week, 5%. I love this website because it gives you weekly. With RP data, it can be 6 weeks behind with settlements. So the rolling month is down 0.8%. For the quarter, down 2%. For the year, down 2.4%. For 3 years, down 2%. So I think there's many factors in that. And
this is rent or sale?
Rent and asking price for rent. And that is what the sentiment I feel, and I reckon that's pretty accurate. And I think there's two big reasons for that over the last couple of years. Yes, COVID the past 12 months, but also interest rates. In the last 3 years, rates have gone from 4% to 1.5%. So you don't have pressure from landlords to really try and push rent. They would rather a good tenant. Think about it, their repayments could have gone from $500 a week to $250 a week, and their rent was $550. And they're like, well, I used to have to put in $100 a week. Now I'm actually making $150 a week. I'm all good with that. So I wouldn't be too disheartened to look at that and be like, oh, shit, market down, don't buy property. I think you need to really look at the cost of a property substantially less. So you don't need to pass on. This goes to when you hear politicians go, raise taxes for the big corporations, and it's like, well, the corporations aren't going to pay it. They're going to lower prices for their employees and increase prices for the consumers buying it. We're here right now, our taxes or the rates have been dramatically lower, so no one's on passing it. But if rates go back up, you'll start to see rents go up. That's
interesting. So I never thought about that. The psychology of a landlord, when they're in the fat, they enjoy that fat with their tenant, and when times are tough and skinny, they'll start gouging a little bit towards tenants and putting rents up. So a lot of the psychology of rents not going up over the last few years, it's just there's just been not been a lot of pressure on landlords,
and it shows
because of the interest rates.
Yeah, and it really shows that greedy landlord is not the majority. Otherwise, you would have seen a further growth. They would have been like, I don't care if my interest is halved or down 60%. I want my $10, $15 extra a week, but over 3 years, it's down 2%. Over 12 months, it's down 2.4. 7 years, it's 0.2 up. 0.2, 10 years, 1.9. Compare that to sales, which is up 85%. It's a total different shake-up.
It's different, yeah. And you know how important our rental market is to Australians? It's housing a third of Australians. It's housing 8 million people, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show. But, you know, that's a lot of homes, and a lot of people opt not to purchase because they are moving around. So that sometimes with work, they may not be staying in a particular suburb for 5 or 10 or years or their life. So renting suits them. It also sometimes is the better it's proven to be even the better investment if people actually consistently save it towards stock. So I don't like to admit it, but if you looked over the last 50 years at stock versus property, stock's the better performer if you're well behaved. But most people find it's much easier to be well behaved financially when you're owning a property, bricks and mortar. But it is a really, really big segment. It should be congratulated. It should be celebrated, much like at the moment the sales market is being celebrated with people that own property. I think that even people that are tenants in properties should be pretty proud that that their biggest cost It's proven that their biggest cost over the last 2 or 3 years, where it used to go up consistently, has not gone up consistently. That's something to celebrate.
It's a big we've done a few shows on not living where you own and renting. It really shows, because think of it this way: if rents haven't really gone up in 10 years, think of the property's double. So you can now rent double the value of a property for half the price. So there's now a big gap. I think before it wouldn't have been too different. Going, if you can afford $1,000 a week, there wasn't a difference in, okay, well, if I buy a 2-bedroom unit, my mortgage is $1,000 a week. It's pretty similar. But now you could probably rent a $2 million property that you couldn't afford to buy for $1,000 a week. So you can probably actually live it up a bit more. Buy the property you can afford.
Well, you said that yesterday in St. Leonard's. You said that.
Yeah. So it's good to see the data sort of backs me up.
Yeah, so we went through a property for sale in St. Leonard's that was a $2 million property, and it was rented for $850 a week. And I said to Michael, mate, imagine buying something like this. And he said, stuff that. I'd rather rent something like this and buy in an area that's better performed. And I was like, you know what? For $850 a week, this is an incredible home. Yeah. It is like the most high end of high end of high end. Like the views to the harbour were just incredible. So it feeds that, doesn't it?
It was insane. And I was like, I remember I sold a property for $900,000 and rented it in DY for $850. I'm like, why would I buy that for $2 million? Like, and I said the person who would buy that, they're older, they're flush with cash, they're not looking at it like that. They want to own where they live. Like, I get that's a super strong principle, and it's good for some people. But for some people, they don't have the luxury to do that. They got to be a bit smarter with their money. You got to put their pride to the side. I think that's what it is. The pride of owning. Like, why would you own something where you could buy something else and make double? Like, it's just pride. So, and I was like,
it's that emotion, hey, because
it is.
Don't forget as a tenant, taxes and rates, you don't get a lot of. So if you're buying a property to live in, you're going to get stamp duty. If you're buying a property for investment, a house, for instance, you're going to get land tax, unit even. If you're going to get strata, you're going to have to pay water, you're going to have to pay council. As a tenant, you actually avoid all of those costs year on year.
And the property you do own as your investment, you can claim so much stuff on it. So you don't get hit with the bills, and you've got the deductions, and your cash flow is better because you're renting a property for less than what a mortgage would be. So I think especially in this day and age where a lot of people are doing 90% loans, they really need to look at stuff. We did a show yesterday on your purchasing your first property, but were most people buying with 10%, 90% loans, or was it more 60, 70%?
In the olden days?
In the 95, late 90s, maybe back to 100.
Still 10%.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, we didn't buy in cash. That was 1920.
When it was like properties were only $26,000 in 1937, or no, 57.
It's, you know what, people say that, but it's all relative. So anyway, in summarising off on the rental market, guys and girls, it has been resilient. It is still very affordable and more affordable. Something before we go out, units have been stable the last 5 years in a suburb like DY. Houses are definitely going up. So, yeah. So if you want to rent cheap, go to the city and rent a one-bedder.
Great value.
And I think you're going to be shocked. Great value. Unbelievable value. If you want to live well, go to the Northern Beaches, rent a house. You are paying for the privilege. So the counterintuitive thing to do is go for a 1 or 2 bedroom unit and go towards the CBD, and you are getting unbelievable, as much as 30% off on your rents. Yeah. So the rental market as a whole has done very well, comparing it to other countries in the world. We're not seeing any of this stuff on the media. If anyone's got any feedback, this is a live show. Tell us now. And before we go out, thank you very much, Lisa, Gawi, Jennifer. Jennifer says, what was the site, Michael, that you were on?
Yeah, I'm just, it's SQM Research. I'll copy the link, but you've got to pay a subscription. I can flick you.
It is. I reckon that's the most powerful data for property that you can find at the moment.
Yeah,
it's super fast, super current. And Jeff, thanks for your comments this morning. Philip, thanks for your comments. Lisa Faircane, thanks for your comments. Love you, everyone. Is there anything else, Michael, you want to throw in?
Yeah, I'm just putting the link in there for Jennifer, SQM Research. Definitely worth having a look at that. It's amazing. There's lots of reports. His outlook, he's all good. That's everything.
He's a freak.
Yes. Follow him on Instagram, LinkedIn as well. We post some really good stuff on LinkedIn. There's lots of good data out there.
What's his name again?
Lewis Christopher. So you'll be able to see him on LinkedIn. Yeah.
L-O or L-E?
L-O-I.
L-O-U-I-S. Okay, cool.
Cool. Thanks,
everyone. Have a beautiful...
Thanks, everyone. Bye.